So yeah, so October, November 2017, first variant MCQs, and we'll check our answers after every 15 odd questions. So, what is the most likely reason for the privatization of state-owned industries? So, sell them off to the private sector. A, to achieve a more equitable distribution of income is not likely because you're going from public sector to the private sector में बेच दिया है. To achieve economies of scale is also difficult because normally your state-owned industries contain larger firms which won't have economies of scale. When you sell it out to the private sector, usually break up into smaller firms. To achieve marginal cost pricing, which if you remember
Not
was
likely.
this is being allocatively efficient. The private sector has no.
Not every. Yeah, it's not compulsion for the private sector firms to actually use marginal cost pricing.
Exactly, because they have no incentive to do so, right? So while it might in a few cases happen, it's not really your most likely reason. But productive efficiency, which is basically your minimum AC, like producing at that point, that is likely to happen because private sector has the profit motive. So that can be a reason. So we have
Profit maximization and cost minimization. So this is the most likely reason.
Basically. So 1D. 2 may we have council estimated costs and benefits of operating a bus service. 2 saalon mein. These are shown in the table. So you have private costs, external costs, and if you note, if you add private and external costs, you get social costs. If you add private and external benefits, you get social benefits. So what can be concluded from the table? Between 2015 and 2016, social costs fell and social benefits rose. So you just add them, you add and compare. So if you look at social costs, this is 2,500. Is it 25 like 2,500, and this if you add it is 3,100. So social costs in fact rose. So not this. Social costs fell to no sakta. Either social cost rose कह रहा है but इधर कह रहा है social benefits fell. So let's check. इधर भी आपका 2,500 हो जाएगा. And surprisingly, so social benefits did not fall. Yeah, they rose.
They rose.
In both years, positive externalities exceeded negative externalities, which is basically saying that external benefits are greater than external costs, which might be true for like year 1, that is 2015, but is not true for year 2 because negative externalities are greater than positive ones. So this is wrong. In both years, social costs equaled social benefits. So yeah, so your answer should be D because social costs do equal social benefits in both years. If you just compare. So yeah, answer is D. And we proceed. So at a major sporting event, the unofficial markets occur where tickets originally sold by the event organizers are resold at prices higher than the original ticket price. Yeah, I always like these boys, man. What might be the conclusion of an economist considering these markets? So black market type scene, like black market is extreme. So allocation of tickets by ballot would be more preferable. I don't know. No, maybe. मतलब like पैसे कहाँ से कमाओगे like
No, not this because an official. I don't think so because they're sold by the event organizer. Are we assuming that it's a private sector organizing the event?
Yeah,
only in that case.
Are sold. Yeah, they're sold, right? Sold by the event organizer. So like, जो भी है, they at least want to charge a price for it. It's not a free.
Exactly. So
yeah, so like
balloting doesn't sound good.
मतलब कोई rationing भी नहीं बोला ना, ballot से करेंगे, lucky draw. So the market for the resold tickets is more equitable. No, why would it be more equitable?
No, it's not.
Yeah, it's exploiting.
No, it's not.
Higher prices. the new allocation of tickets better reflects consumer utility.
They might.
This might.
Yeah, because
Yeah, this is a possible answer.
consumers are willing to pay that higher price for those tickets. So
For the
D
tickets, yeah.
is also a nice option.
so like let's just keep C on hold for now. D, this is a case of monopoly exploitation. I mean, if you do अगर inelastic demand है and you buy a lot of those tickets and then you sell them at a higher price, it is similar. That's for sure.
Not likely
Yeah.
because can be a monopoly exploitation.
नहीं है because there's एक से ज़्यादा भी supplier हो सकता है ना. But C is for certain. ज़ाहिर है अगर ये करें तो it's a good
C is certain.
Say, so the idea of market power इधर नहीं आ रहा monopoly में, but C should be good because it reflects consumer utility, how they're willing to pay that higher price. So let's stick with that. Let's go to 4. Which statement describes the operation of the law of variable proportions? So, वैसे ये याद है क्या law of variable proportions? Is it
वही है diminishing returns वाला ही है.
Law of diminishing returns.
सही है.
It's another name for law of diminishing returns.
Okay. So as all factors are increased in proportion, the marginal cost of production increases. It's not really right. Like that's
Good.
As all factors are increased in proportion, total product rises at a diminishing rate. मतलब it rise the rate you do.
No, it does not rise at a diminishing rate. It rises quickly. I mean, at one point it's rising at a slow rate, but then it shifts at an increasing rate as soon as the law of variable proportion kicks in. So I don't think this is the answer. This is the right answer. Because it says as all factors are increasing in proportion, and we are only taking into factor the variable factors as well.
So law of diminishing returns, variable proportions, we don't only take into account variable factors. My bad. So
we only take into account.
In fact, you could have just crossed out A and B anyways. So as C is as more of a variable factor is added to a fixed as more of a variable factor is added to a fixed factor, the marginal cost of production diminishes, which marginal cost does not seem to be exactly. Yeah, marginal cost is the नहीं है.
Marginal cost will change.
But the idea was like
it's D.
As you increase a variable factor, so you get your output increases, but not at the same proportion, right?
At a slow rate.
Yeah. So as
it increases at a slow rate.
Yeah. So as more of a variable factor is added to the fixed factor, total product rises at a diminishing rate. And like just to link it back to the law of diminishing returns is like हमने suppose 5% पे हमने variable factors बढ़ा दिए by 5%. आपका अगर diminishing return है तो output बढ़ जाएगा but by 2%. सही है. So like then if you increase it by 6% तो आपका output बढ़ जाएगा like by some amount like so the total product does increase but because the proportion is in the same so it's at a diminishing rate. So yeah, so giving
basically your fixed factor is not changing. Your fixed factor is not changing. So after some time, there will be overcrowding on the same fixed factor as you like make use of like more and more variable factors.
That's the logic behind it. Say, 5. So the diagram shows two indifference curves and two budget lines relating to goods X and Y. The consumer's initial position is at point R. The money price of good X decreases, price decrease hogi, so it will pivot outwards because you can buy more of it. And the consumer's preferred position becomes point T. Let's just use a different color for this. So yeah, what is good X? So the idea basically is that as price of good X, agar dekhen, price of good X has decreased, and you can see if you like look here, this is basically your output of good X, quantity consumed, right? So the quantity of good X has increased.
Has fallen.
Oh.
No, it has fallen. Yeah.
Yeah.
Good X has increased.
Has increased. Yeah. So like it's gone from here to here to here. So if the price come away, quantity increase ho gayi hai. So it should be, if you look at it, a giffen good to nahi hoga because giffen good mein price and quantity have a direct relationship, right? If you look at a luxury good, a normal good, an inferior good, luxury good का idea, what's the link here with the luxury
So,
good?
okay, let's break it into the substitution effect and the income effect now. So because of the fall in the price of good X, the substitution effect caused the quantity to increase. I mean, it went from R to S. So, and then the income effect, the income effect basically reduce the quantity of good X. So there's a higher chance of it being an inferior good because substitution effect say you're consuming more of good X, but income effect say you're consuming less of good X. So
Okay.
it's definitely not a normal good because normal good में the income effect and the substitution effect are both positive, and it cannot be given good. So, and luxury good does not make sense here. I don't know why
Exactly,
they don't
that's
put
what
it
I'm
here.
saying. So luxury good का idea नहीं. Giffen good तब होता जब if the income effect would override the substitution effect.
Exactly.
Right?
So
Okay.
you're
So basically, to sum it all up, what we're saying is basically, okay, the movement along the curve is the substitution effect. If I write the note with S, and फिर जो S to T जा रहा है, that is your income effect.
that's the income effect.
And R to
And
S.
income effect is negative.
Yeah, so R to S
R2S
is positive, and S to T is negative if you look at it in terms of quantity.
Negative.
So यही होता है कि and if you look at it, the price of good X has decreased, which means
Has decreased. Yeah.
your real income, अगर आप देखें, has
Your
increased.
real income has increased.
So if your real income has increased, however the income effect is showing a negative, तो income बढ़ने से quantity
Which
income
means
effect पे
it's
कम क्या होता है,
negative.
inferior good में होता है. And as Josefa said, if it was a normal good, so both the substitution and the income effect
both
should
should
have
be
been
positive.
positive. Yeah. So we're
And
good.
if it was a given good, the income effect should have overridden the substitution effect.
जो बात है. So 5D. Firms can grow internally or externally. What is a characteristic of external growth? सही है. A, direct investment in productive facilities in foreign countries. Not too sure what they're trying to say here. So direct investment in productive facilities in foreign countries. So that might, well, growth में अगर आप बात करें, so if you differentiate between internal or external growth, I think external growth is where you grow by amalgamation, merger, stuff like that, right? So instead of growing खुद से organically, you're just going to merge or take over. So while investing in a productive facility in a foreign country, it might be your productive facility, you might be growing. I think this is more of an internal growth rather than an external growth. I mean, you're not combining with someone else. So growth that results in external economies benefiting other firms is not really your characteristic. Growth that results from mergers with or acquisitions of other firms, that is external growth, to my knowledge.
This is the right answer.
Yeah. And the financing of investment by issue of bonds rather than retained profits has no relevance. So 6C. Okay, 7 देखते हैं. The diagram shows a firm's costs and revenue curves. The firm embarks on successful $100 million advertising campaign. How will this affect its costs and revenue? Firms, अच्छा अगर हमने 100 million advertising revenue campaign किया है, so your costs should increase, right? So definitely your AC curve should, I think it should be a parallel shift upwards.
Yep.
Because your cost is increasing. And since MC cuts AC where it's at a minimum, so MC would be somewhat here. MC1.
But isn't marginal cost related with just the production of the good? I mean, how will advertising really affect the marginal cost of the good? I guess it will, or will it not?
So mathematically, MC cuts AC at the minimum. But marginal cost is more of a variable thing. Yeah. So advertising, if you take it as a fixed cost, then
advertising is a fixed cost, right? I don't think this might really affect the marginal cost.
So yeah, I agree with that. So अगर हम देखें, so the AC curve should shift up definitely. and the
And the marginal cost should remain unchanged.
unchanged.
MC curve should remain unchanged.
B आपको हो गया?
No, we need to discuss MR and AR curve as well, right?
अच्छा इधर भी है. So like just by the fact that you identified how the AC
इधर भी
curve
है,
shifts up means you can narrow it down to B or D, and इधर भी MC की तो टेंशन लेने की जरूरत ही नहीं है फिर. सही.
And it says a successful advertising campaign, which means that the demand curve really shifted to the right as well. When the demand curve shifted to the right, that means your MR curve also shifted to the right.
Yeah, that's your So, sorry, I was just drawing this AC one again because that's where it cuts MC and minimum cost. So a demand curve. Advertising should increase demand. You're saying, say yeah, and your demand curve was your.
It says a successful advertising campaign, no?
Yeah, definitely. If it's successful, then it should increase AR, and your demand curve is your AR. So something along these lines. Oh, sorry, my bad. Proper shift आना चाहिए. आपका shift आ गया. सही है.
It's basically B because
so
average revenue curve also shifts and
and okay, so obviously you can tell that because of 3 right, B होगा, but the logic again, since MR is now supposed to fall इधर से, now this is your MR, so really it's also shifted to the right as well, and you're good, you have B. सही है. So 7B. 8, what would encourage an increase in the number of small firms? Encourage करना है, increase करना है. Increasing government regulation of the conditions in the workplace. I don't know if that would motivate you to set up a firm. If there are more regulations, more safety and health standards, I think that'll be make it more difficult for you to set up a firm.
More additional costs actually.
Yeah, exactly.
For providing better conditions.
So more risk-averse lending policies by banks. If they're risk-averse, then they're less likely to give you a loan unless they're sure that you will be able to pay it back. So there are less loans going to be available, less loans going to be given to people like sole traders and all. So that won't be it. Stronger government laws against the growth of monopoly should help, I guess. Because अगर monopoly power को आप curtail कर रहे होगे, which is good because then the monopoly can't employ strategies like predatory pricing or excessive advertising to knock out other small firms. So answer should be C. And if you look at D, tougher penalties.
Basically, less barriers to entry, because monopolies' major aim is creating barriers to entry, so no one joins the industry and takes a part of their market share.
Yeah, so if you have laws against the growth of monopoly, you kind of reduce all those firm-created barriers to entry. And you can just cross out D as well, because if there are tougher penalties in the case of personal bankruptcy, then people would be less likely to open up their firm, right? Because there are just more penalties in case they go bankrupt. So we can go to 9. The diagram shows a firm's cost and revenue curves. The firm changes its objective from sales revenue maximization to it went to profit maximization. So profit maximization, you should know, it's when MC is equals to MR. And sales revenue maximization is when MR is equals to 0. Because that's where you have total revenue max. So you'll be going at output Q. Now you're going to be going at output Q1. Okay, but question क्या है? How this affect the following groups in the short run? And I guess for that you have to look at the price. So either अगर हम price को देखें, which is आप demand curve, which is the AR से आप निकालोगे, तो पहले you had P. Either अभी you'll have a higher price, which is P1. So customers would lose out because there's a higher price being charged. Workers ka, I think if you look at it by quantity, what do you think? Okay, I think internet ka masla ho raha hai. So yeah, but the idea is customers will definitely lose out because at the new point of profit maximization, there's a higher price being charged. Workers, I think, will also lose out because the output is decreased. So they probably need less workers to be employed in the first place. Anyone else agrees, disagrees? इसमें थोड़ा सा guide कर लो.
I guess this makes sense.
Sorry?
I think this makes sense क्योंकि अगर quantity कम produce कर रहे हैं तो workers would have to be laid off and so workers would obviously lose out on it.
Okay, so this is what will tell you about consumers, and this should what will tell you about workers, and they both will lose out, giving your answer 9D. Okay, so 10 पे जाते हैं. The firms in an industry decide to collude informally and follow a price leader. So this is like oligopolistic behavior. What will reduce the likelihood that the collusion will succeed? So we need to reduce the likelihood. The firms produce close substitutes will probably help the likelihood because that is kind of like what an oligopoly is about. The firms have similar cost structures will help. Why? Because price leadership model mein, a price and quantity more or less through the leadership, एक idea हो जाता है. So which is when if you're fixing that type of stuff, it's only going to help you when you have similar cost structures. So if you have different ones, then it'll be more difficult to collude. C, there are low barriers to entry into the industry. In fact, this will make it difficult to collude. Yeah, because like this kind of erodes your market power, right? So in an oligopoly, there would be few firms that have large market power, and if there are low barriers to entry, other firms can enter and dilute their market power. So that reduces the likelihood. And D, you can cross out because few firms are and that just helps because few firms is a characteristic of an oligopoly. And yeah, I think we'll just go on to 15 and then let's check our answers.
Yeah.
So the theory of contestable markets, where basically how markets are said to be contestable if they have low barriers to entry. So can be applied to monopolistic competition, monopoly, oligopoly, or any one of the. So okay, so I'm not sure what they're trying to say. If they're trying to say, but theory to can be applied, but which market, if they're asking which markets are contestable, then it should be monopolistic competition only, or which is basically like kind of like your midpoint or a mix of some. I mean, like monopoly and perfect competition beach wala rasta. Vana to monopolies and oligopolies make contestable markets. They aren't contestable markets. There are barriers to entry. Do you think that's what they're asking?
What are contestable markets? The ones with
low barriers to entry, I believe.
Where there are low barriers to entry.
Yeah. So yeah, so are we good with B?
I guess so, yeah.
जहाँ पर ज़्यादा
So yeah, let's go on to 12. According to the law of diminishing returns. So yeah, so according to the law of diminishing returns, what happens as more of a variable factor is combined with the fixed factor. So the idea is that your output should increase, but it's not a proportionate increase. मतलब जितना हमने किया है, like 5% हमने increase किया variable factor का output शायद 2% by increase कर दिया. So what's the idea? An increase in the price of a variable factor will eventually result in an increase in production costs. What? What?
No.
What's exactly like? So
increase in the price.
Yeah, we're just talking about
increase in price is not related to the law of diminishing returns.
Exactly.
It's basically
it's irrelevant. Like law of diminishing returns, as we stated, it's like when you employ more of a variable factor, and you get a less than proportional increase in output. So B, so a reduction in the quality of a variable factor will eventually result in an increase in production costs. I mean, like, yeah, probably, but not really related to the law of diminishing returns, right? So C, fewer units of the variable factor will be needed to produce equal increases in output. Though that will be the law of increasing returns, I believe.
उल्टा है.
है ना?
हाँ उल्टा है.
the proportions in which the factors are combined will eventually result in progressively smaller increases in output. I think that's the idea. So you will have an increase in output, but it would come hota jayega jitna आप variable factor को employ करते जाओगे.
Yeah.
So let's go to 13. Firm X is considering whether to cooperate with its rival so that their joint profit is 4,000 a month, which is 2,000 each. It is calculated that if it did not cooperate, its own profit would be 2,800 a month, provided that it kept all its customers itself. However, if the rival undercuts X's price and took some of the customers, then X's profit would be 1,200. So basically, या तो cooperate करे and it get if he basically cooperates, he gets 2,000. If he does not cooperate and बचत होता है, तो he'll get 2,800, which is more attractive. However, if the other guy messes with him, he'll get 1,200. Basically, the prisoner's dilemma, right? So I think that's literally the answer. Okay. So basically, the prisoner's dilemma is where if you cooperate, you get some benefit, but if you go alone, you might get more benefit, provided that your rival or the other person does not act in a particular way. However, if the other person acts in a particular way, you will get less benefit than you would have gotten had you chosen to cooperate. So it has a few characteristics. Interdependence, you can take prisoner's dilemma, or on what I explained, you can take prisoner's dilemma. So 13C.
It's one of the very simple examples of game theory. It's one of the very simple examples.
The most simple example, perhaps. Both people are better off if they cooperate, and so yeah.
Yeah. So 14 ko dekho, government's intent on improving living standards for individuals with low incomes sometimes impose rent controls, so maximum prices on houses rented from private landlords. So rent pay to reduce it, if impose some sort of a maximum price from private landlords. Agar aap kar rahe ho. What might be the effects of rent controls in the long run? So probably a shortage, if that is the idea. But let's see. The long run supply of rental houses will contract. I guess so. Because the idea is, if you draw a simple demand and supply diagram, and maximum price you impose below the equilibrium, because that's the only place where it's effective, right? Where it actually helps the person. So if you look here, supply just contracts to whatever this is, QS. I was too lazy to draw the X's, and demand extends to QD, leaving you with a shortage. This is a AS, let's say. But okay, so I think it should be A, longer supply of rental houses on contract. But baki pad lete hain, the number of unoccupied privately rented houses will increase over time. Unoccupied.
This is basically a price because.
Sorry.
Unoccupied. This is a excess supply. There is more supply and less demand. So this is basically when you apply when the government imposes a minimum price.
Yeah. So C ko dekho, because this is wrong. Shortage ho raha hai, surplus nahi ho raha. See, the price of owner occupied houses will increase. Well, it can't. There's a maximum price, so that can't happen. You can clearly tell that the other price has gone down. There will be no effect on the supply of the rental housing, matlab cash. So yeah, so 14A. And 15. In certain countries, let's go back to that. In certain countries, benefits are provided to individuals on low income. As their income rises, the benefits are reduced and income tax has to be paid. What can result from this? Probably income what can result from this? Poverty trap? No, poverty trap nahi hoga. Price stabilization to ka koi link nahi hai. Replacement ratio is, I believe, if I'm right, the replacement ratio is the amount of people dying and being born. So I don't know what link that has with this. Unemployment trap.
I think it's B, poverty trap. because एक तो आप already गरीब हो, आपने थोड़ा सा कमाना क्या शुरू किया, the government reduces your benefits, and on top of that you have to pay the income tax. So
okay, that's one way to look at it.
what is
The other,
it doesn't seem right, but unemployment trap तो नहीं होगा. Unemployment trap भी हो सकता है because
That's what
आपने फिर अपने वो reduce हो गए.
in fact, I think I would go with D
Your
rather.
benefit.
I think तुम्हारी आवाज थोड़ी कट रही है.
Yeah.
But I would go with D rather because
Right.
idea is कि it's a disincentive to increase your income, right? Because if you increase your income, then your benefits reduce, and then income tax has to be paid. So yeah, so
Poverty. What's the definition of poverty trap?
Basically, you're stuck in the cycle of, you're stuck in the cycle of poverty. But in this particular case, well, you do get benefits, like, and you if you get benefits and you don't income tax आपसे charge नहीं किया जा रहा, you might not be high income, but you won't be poor per se. Like आपकी शायद income इतनी नहीं हो, but if you get facilities and benefits, so you can question whether the person is poor. So I mean, you can still escape the poverty trap, even if you don't have that high of an income. But I don't know, because this kind of like links me to Canada's scene a lot of the time. If you go above a certain income, then आप इतना income tax डाला जाता है, people are just like हम इससे below ही रह जाए. Like हम if you're unemployed, हम unemployed ही रह जाए, we're getting benefits, tax भी नहीं लग रहा, हम जैसे employed होंगे, income level बढ़ेगा, tax भी लगेगा, benefits भी कम हो जाएंगे. What the incentive to work goes down. So, which one do you want to go for? I would go for D.
D because
So we have Josefa for B, or we have Essen for D. So yeah, and since this is the last one, so we're gonna check our answers anyways. So let's see क्या scene है. So yeah, so 15 we have some DB जो भी है. Okay, so let's check our answers. So yeah, so let's check our answers. So we have 1D, 2D, 3C, 4D, 5D, 6C, 7D, 8C, 9D, 10C. Oops, 11A था हमारा. 12D, हमने B लिखा 11 का, but 11 is A. 12D, 13C, 14A. Ooh, okay. So and you were right, 15B.
15B.
So
let's go back to 11. What did we do wrong?
15 भी सही कर लेते हैं. So unemployment trap is a bit of a stretch. Just repeat your explanation for poverty trap. ताकि वो भी एक दो आ जाए.
Okay, I said कि I mean आप एक already गरीब मान काम शुरू किया, and as soon as you start making money, the government reduces the benefits, and on top of that you have to pay income tax. तो आप already कम पैसे आ रहे हैं घर में, और जो आ रहे हैं उसमें से you are paying tax. तो basically your example of Canada, that इतना tax देना पड़ता है कि बंदा सोचता है सच गरीब बंदा रह जाए.
So basically,
I think that's the work of it.
Yeah, so you're stuck as a low income earner basically.
You're stuck as a low income earner.
Okay. So yeah, so we have that. 11 को अगर हम देखें, the theory of contestable markets can be applied to A, but that was like, yeah, I mean, it can. ये तफरी है यार. मतलब, yes, the only monopolistic competition can be said to be a contestable market, but the theory can be applied to like, yeah, whatever, like.
I still don't get contestable market. Contestable markets is basically a market where there are low barriers to entry. Is that the only thing, or are there other concepts that can be applied to monopoly and oligopoly? मतलब monopoly तो कहीं से नहीं है. Monopoly is in no way a contestable market for entry.
In essence, a contestable market is one with zero entry and exit costs. This means that there are no barriers to entry and no barriers to exit. So yeah, so that is basically the theory of contestable markets. However, I mean, obviously the theory can be applied to monopoly and oligopoly. So like इन्होंने बड़ी तफरीक की थी हमारे साथ.
But monopoly is always a very large firm that has like so much money invested in, I don't know, research and development and technology. And how are the exit costs zero? Because you have to shut down all your plants and equipments and everything. And that does not really make sense. अगर आज मतलब I don't get this kind of theory. How can it be applied to?
Comparative wage determination theory can be applied where in the real world, even though it's not actually like it isn't like you can try to apply stuff even though it's not actually what it is. Like it doesn't have to be a contestable market for the theory to be applied. Like the theory can help you try to make monopoly more contestable and try to make that market more contestable, even though it isn't an actual contestable market. Like as a economic model, it can be applied. I think that's what I take away.
But
like I don't understand.
in absolute terms, it can only be applied to perfect competition because wahin pe there are zero entry to barriers and entry costs and exit costs.
Yeah, and maybe that would
Or
have,
perhaps
and maybe that should have hinted towards us that they're not asking what is a contestable market. They're just asking,
they're
like
asking,
huh, because that perfect competition to option ही नहीं है. Chalo, so that's good enough for these 15 questions. Sahi,